United States and Iran have been locked in conflict for more than 4 decades, through sanctions, nuclear standoffs, and near-war moments. But why are they still enemies, and what keeps this conflict from ever ending? Every time US-Iran tensions rise, the same question comes up. Are we heading towards a war? But the real story isn't what you see in headlines. It's been building for decades. So, in this video, we'll uncover how all this started, why it hasn't ended, and what could happen next. The tensions between Iran and the US have been ongoing for a long time. The conflict didn't start yesterday. It dates back to more than 70 years. In the early 1950s, during the Cold War, Iran's elected Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh made a bold decision about the oil resources of Iran. He decided to nationalize Iran's oil industry as he believed that the oil should be owned by Iran instead of foreign powers. This decision was also taken because Iran earns only a small amount from its own oil. The Iran's oil was largely controlled by a British company during that time. After this decision, the British lost massive oil revenues and they decided to organize an international boycott of Iranian oil. Due to this boycott, Iran struggled to sell oil and its economy got weakened. The United States was concerned that this chaos could lead Iran towards the Soviet Union. So they removed the current prime minister and restored the Shah, who promised cooperation and stability. Iranians saw this as foreign interference, and trust in the US collapsed after that. An anti-American sentiment grew, and this anger helped fuel the 1979 Islamic Revolution. During early 1979, the Shah was overthrown first, and after a few months, Iranian students seized a US embassy in Tehran. They captured 52 Americans who were diplomats and embassy staff and held them as hostages for 444 days. Due to these events, diplomatic ties were cut and decades of sanctions, proxy fights, and regional power struggles followed. After this victory, Iran supported militant groups like Hezbollah and Hamas, which were declared as extremists by America. The US, in against to this, supported Iraq in its war with Iran during 1985 to 1988. And also, the US shot down an Iranian passenger plane in 1988, killing 290 civilians on board. After this incident, Iran blamed the US for killing innocent civilians. According to the US, the aircraft was mistaken for a hostile military jet. This incident became one of the painful and unforgivable moments in Iran-US relations. Even today, it is still remembered in Iran and is considered a symbol of injustice. Fast forward to the early 2000s, a time in which the Iran-US conflict entered a new and dangerous phase, the nuclear issue. Iran began expanding its nuclear program by building facilities to enrich uranium, which can be used for civilian purposes like generating electricity. Iran also had a plan to develop a nuclear weapon through this uranium. After seeing this move, the United States and its allies became alarmed. They accused Iran of secretly developing a nuclear bomb and also argued that Iran didn't need such advanced enrichment for civilian energy alone. In spite of this, Tehran insisted its nuclear program was peaceful and legal under international law. As the suspicions grew, the US and its allies imposed economic sanctions on Iran. These sanctions affected Iran's oil exports and banking system, which led to massive inflation and unemployment. After enduring years of tension and secret meetings, Iran and 6 world powers finally signed the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action in 2015. As per this agreement, Iran agreed to limit uranium enrichment and allow international inspections of its nuclear facilities. Also, Iran reduced its stockpile of uranium enrichment by 95% and dismantled thousands of nuclear centrifuges. In exchange, the US and its allies removed economic sanctions, enabling Iranian oil to return to global markets. After signing this deal, Iran gained access to billions of dollars. The US and its allies believed that this deal prevented Iran from acquiring a nuclear weapon and stopped another Middle East war. There was a lot of controversy of this bill in the United States. When the Trump administration came into power in 2018, it decided to withdraw from this deal. Trump labeled this deal as the worst deal ever negotiated. He argued that this agreement was not a permanent one, but just a temporary one. Additionally, he stated that this agreement gave Iran financial relief without requiring it to change its behavior. Following the withdrawal from this deal, the U.S. reimposed economic sanctions on Iran. These sanctions have targeted Iran's economy, making it harder than ever. These sanctions had an immediate impact. The oil exports of Iran dropped significantly, and its economy also collapsed. The Iranian currency lost a lot of value against the US dollar, which led to higher inflation and higher unemployment in Iran. Iran started violating the nuclear deal by increasing uranium enrichment beyond agreed limits in response to this. This was done to pressure the Western countries to lift these economic sanctions. The nuclear issue is still the main source of tension between Iran and the US today. The US and its allies are concerned about nuclear proliferation. The concern for Iran is security, sovereignty, and survival in the face of these sanctions. Iran, even though it followed this deal for 1 year, hoped that Europe would compensate for US sanctions. But that never happened. Iran chose to install more advanced centrifuges for that reason. Their message was clear. If we don't receive economic relief, we won't stick to the deal. The conflict moved closer to an open war as diplomacy collapsed. During that year, the US launched an attack on oil tankers in the Persian Gulf. In contrast to this, Iranian-backed militants attacked US forces in Iraq. The US blamed Iran for this attack, but they denied any direct involvement. An incident occurred in 2020 that would have triggered the start of the war between the US and Iran. In January 2020, the US executed General Qasem in a drone strike in Baghdad, which was one of Iran's most effective military leaders. Iran called this incident an act of war. Iran launched missiles against the US military bases in response to this attack. This attack didn't cause any casualties, but dozens of soldiers who were injured during it suffered from brain injuries. This was the point where these two countries were closest to having direct war. If the US had made any response attack in against to this, then a war in the Middle East would have started. After 2020, Iran accelerated its nuclear program even further. The stockpiles grew, and the enrichment of uranium increased far beyond the deal's limit. When Joe Biden's administration came into power in 2021, they tried to restart the nuclear agreement with Iran. There were multiple rounds of indirect conversations held. However, these discussions did not yield any results. That's because Iran demanded economic sanctions to be lifted first. The US disagreed with this and instead argued for a nuclear limit for Iran. The mutual distrust stalled negotiations. In the end, there was no complete agreement. In 2025, Trump's administration came into power. In January 2025, he revived and intensified the maximum pressure approach towards Iran. The aim of the strategy was to cripple Iran's economy with heavy economic sanctions, resulting in Iran agreeing to a nuclear deal. The U.S. targeted companies, tankers, and oil networks linked to Iran's oil exports. These economic sanctions have hit Iran's ability to earn foreign exchange and worsened economic instability in Iran. Trump made it clear that these sanctions were designed to pressure Iran, resulting in Tehran signing the nuclear deal with the U.S. In early 2025, Trump made an effort to talk to Iran about nuclear weapons through letter exchanges and indirect discussions. But these negotiations failed to reach a deal. Trump threatened to take military action against Iran if they did not agree to stronger nuclear limits. In June 2025, the U.S. launched military attacks on 3 Iranian nuclear installations, including Fordo, Natanz, and Esfahan. The U.S. has multiple sources of information that Iran is close to testing a nuclear bomb. And if it is not stopped on time, a new war could start in the Middle East. A war involving a nuclear bomb is unfeasible for the world. The side effects of it can still be seen even today, as a lot of Japanese children are born with some sort of deficiency. Let's get back to this Iran-US conflict. Iran's 3 nuclear facilities were attacked, and they responded with missiles and drones, which caused casualties and infrastructure damage in the region. Trump described these strikes as necessary to roll back Iran's nuclear progress. Iran has a weapon that has the potential to damage even the largest economies like the US. The Strait of Hormuz is what I'm talking about. The Strait of Hormuz is a very narrow waterway, Iran and Oman, that connects Persian Gulf with the Gulf of Oman and Arabian Sea. It is extremely important route. This is due to the fact that approximately 20% of the world's oil, which equals 17 to 20 million barrels daily, passes through the Strait of Hormuz. Most oil exports from major Gulf producers such as Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Kuwait, Iraq, and Iran transit through this route. Also, 1/3 of global liquefied natural gas, which is LNG, also flows through this narrow corridor. Iranians have sometimes made threats to close or disrupt this route due to economic sanctions and military action taken by the US. If Iran blocks the Strait of Hormuz, then the oil prices would spike globally as a large portion of supply would be cut off. Global inflation would increase, causing damage to larger economies like the US. The increase in gas prices would increase costs for businesses and households, leading to political pressure on Washington as a result of this move. But closing this route could also pose a problem for Iran's economy, as its own exports rely on the same route. And also, some of Iran's allies, such as China, also use this route for their exports, and closing this route would disrupt China's exports as well. These could lead to disruption of relations with China, which Iran could not afford. Even if they do so, the US and its allies will make every effort to reopen this route. They might also use military action if diplomacy doesn't yield any results. Current situation has even worsened. The US has sent warships to the region and made it clear that it is prepared for military action. The Iranian leadership issued strong warnings that any attack against the supreme leader would be interpreted as a declaration of war. The tensions have risen after Trump's second term, as there is no diplomacy being done, and direct military action is being taken instead. Anytime this situation can lead to a war between Iran and the US, that's all of today's video. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon to ensure you don't miss any of our future videos.